Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with a top 10 list today. We're going to be doing top 10 extra deck monsters of all time. Time. This is Herf's list, so if you don't like it, you can yell at him. You can go in the chat. Herf, you forgot about.
I quickly made this list based off all the stuff that I remember, so it's a decent chance I may have forgotten about something,
I'd
but
say there's
I
a pretty
honestly
good
think that
chance.
this is a pretty good list.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. What's your number 10?
Number 10,
Yes.
I'm gonna go with Trishala, the
Trishala.
Icy Dragon of Imprisonment.
That is one hell
Yeah,
of a name.
I think that this card is just really, really nice
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons, primarily just because it's generic. And being generic, any deck can summon it. And we don't currently have a deck that can abuse the dragon effect,
Right.
but just being able to unclog all of your boards, especially with like synchro decks, like you're seeing Shiranui play this card a ton, and just be able to plus so much off of summoning a generic fusion that shouldn't even be a Shiranui card, but is the most broken card in their extra deck almost.
And explain
Uh,
how they do that.
Yeah, so basically, all it requires is three monsters with different names on your
Mm-hmm.
field, and then you banish all of them face up and summon this card. So because they're banished face up, they all get their effects. So like, if I had a Squire, a Solitaire, and a level 2 tuner on the field, even if they're face up or face down, doesn't matter. I can banish all of them face up and special summon this card, and then I would get to resummon the level 2 as well as draw and discard because Squire and Solitaire were banished. So just all around, it gets all of the effects. Now, if it was banished face down, this card would be just like very bad. But since it's banished face up, and you get all the effects off the banish, it's amazing.
All right. Well, we haven't seen it a whole lot in tournament play. Maybe we'll see it a little bit more in the future.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And your next one.
I would say next one at number 9, unironically also being a level 9, is Vermillion Dragon mech.
Ooh, that's a good
I
one.
think I think that this card is just one of the best generic um, synchros in the game. I don't know how much you need to explain it, but it's a generic level 9 synchro that you can banish a tuner from your hand or grave to destroy a card on the field.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
just,
nice.
yeah, I mean, just being able to have extra card removal on demand for any deck is always going to be better rather than worse. Um, it came out in the Subterra box, and originally it wasn't super impactful, but as more and more decks have been able to get into level 9 synchros, this card has definitely been a staple in any deck that could potentially summon a level 9 synchro, like Thunder Dragons.
Or Blue Eyes. We see it in Blue Eyes.
Blue Eyes, too, yeah, it's a huge card for Blue Eyes.
Yeah, you always know it's coming too, because they go into their, was it the alternative dragon, and then they can go
Mm-hmm.
into this. And, yeah.
Yeah, so they can loop for like 3 pops in a turn, which is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Using Vermillion Dragon, because then they pop with alternative, then they summon their tuner, go into Vermillion, pop another card, add back their alternative, special summon, pop again. So overall, 3 pops for Blue Eyes. In general, just 1 pop for most decks being good enough. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, amazing card.
All right. Then what's your next one?
My next one is Black Rose. So a lot of people will probably be surprised that I put Black Rose so low,
Mm-hmm.
but most decks can't, like, I mean, a lot of decks do push through off of a Black Rose, or push for a game off of a Black Rose, and it's really, really nice, but it destroying all of your field as well just makes it worse than all of the other extra deck monsters above it.
Right.
It's still like in the top 10 extra deck monsters in the game for sure, and is definitely the best generic level 7 we have. But overall, isn't quite as strong as all the ones above it, but definitely stronger than all the ones below it.
Well, it's got to be. You got to have a deck that can recover quite easily, like a Crystron deck,
Mm-hmm.
where you can work with stuff out of the graveyard, or
Yeah,
you
or
know.
even like we can see Black Wings are sometimes able to Black Rose into lethal because they have like a Simoon plus another level 4 in their hand, so
Mm-hmm.
they can Black Rose their field and then combo into just like a easy lethal play.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but most decks that can just summon a level 7 would often just go for like Samurai Destroyer, because it doesn't destroy yourself. Granted, Sam Destroyer is not on this list, It's a very good card.
What? Spoiler
It's
alert!
not on this list. but Black Rose is still a very strong card nonetheless.
All right, then. So what is the next one on your list?
Number 7
Mm-hmm.
is Bionic. Bionic, absolutely crazy.
He's got a full name though.
Yeah, I forget his full name.
Bionic Dragon of the Ice Barrier.
Oh yeah, it's an ice barrier card.
Yes.
Ice barriers are top tier. No, they're not. But yeah, Bionic is just amazing because you can discard as many cards from your hands
Mm-hmm.
and then target that many cards on the field and return them to their owner's hands.
That's pretty nice.
Insane. So you're talking at minimum, bounce 1. At maximum, bounce, well, technically you probably couldn't be able to do this, but if your hand size is 6, which is the limit, you can bounce 6 cards on the field. So that's an entire field, and it stays on the field.
Well, it's devastating if you do it against their extra deck monsters.
Yeah, so like let's say your opponent goes into like a turn 1 Shogun Saga, this card just bounces it back to the extra, and you're like, ha, okay.
Yeah, do it again. Get that thing out again. I dare you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like constant. I mean, it's once per turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's every single turn, you're going to be able to bounce at least 1 card.
Right.
Which a lot of decks cannot keep up with. And then if you're a deck like Crystron's that can actually plus off being able to discard, it gets very, very scary very fast.
Yeah, nice, strong card. There was always a debate when Coral Dragon came out, which one was better. I think they both have their own uses.
I think this card is ultimately stronger because it allows you to bounce more, but Coral definitely has its perks in certain decks, and that's why it's just not as good of a generic level 6 as this one is.
All right. Moving right along then.
The next one in number 6 is Shiranui Sun Saga, and for a few different reasons. It's very easily someone going first or going second.
Mm-hmm.
It can protect all of your zombie type monsters on the field by banishing a zombie from the grave, which often leads you to be able to plus off that, since like if you banish a square, you get to draw from protecting your monsters, so it's like you're not really paying a cost. As well as when it's summoned, you can target as many synchro zombies as possible and send them back to the extra deck and then destroy that many cards on the field.
Non-targeting destruction.
Yeah, non-targeting. So like you can just blow up the entire board. You don't target. Your opponent's forced to activate all their effects because they're scared. Ultimately, I mean, it's just a really crazy boss monster.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to go into.
Yeah, I mean, with level dupe or level augmentation, like you get into this guy fast if you want to. Mm-hmm. So that also really helps. And even just if you get there off of like one synchro being able to return back, it's non-targeting destruction. So your opponent still doesn't know what you're going to be destroying, so they have to activate their effects either way because they could destroy your card and then you're screwed. So it just puts a lot of pressure on the opponent, and there's not a lot of ways to get rid of it.
And what's cool is this card fits in Control Shiranui, Combo Shiranui, Hybrid Shiranui, and Super Shiranui.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got all these decks you can put it in that are all very different and distinct in their own unique ways.
Right, yeah. They're so different we had to name them differently. All right, so halfway through the list now, number 5.
Aquarion.
Aquarion Gondrax, right?
I'm never going to say that entire thing.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Too much for me to handle. But Aquarion is disgusting. Aquarion is the disgusting boss monster for Crystron's. You get to target 3 monsters on the field or in the graveyard and banish them. So, at minimum, you're banishing 1 monster on the field and 2 from the grave, which is huge. Mm-hmm. Or you can just banish all their monsters on the field, which is huge. And if it's destroyed, you get to target a banished monster in either player's banish pile and special summon it to your side of the field.
I think what's crazy is no matter how good this card is, it's seeing less play in Crystron decks.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be played at once, or at 1, because when you put it on the board, you have game.
Right.
And you don't really need it before you have game.
It seems like a lot of people are now just going into the Brio play and kind of going that direction rather than the Aquarion Gondrax.
Well, the pro of doing the Bionic play early is you're often able to OTK off of it quickly and just get through the game. However, if that's not available to you, or like let's say you get your Amatrix out first and you're unable to go into Bionic that easily, you can go into Aquarion a lot of times off 2-card combos that your opponent may not know, because a lot of people don't know how Cristrons work. So you can honestly like surprise a lot of people with Aquarion, banish their entire field, go for game. It's maybe not as common as Bionic or Coral Dragon going for an OTK, but it's definitely, when you put it on the board, you win, which is incredible. And plus, you can be played in more than just Crystron decks.
Right.
Which is also cool.
I've been seeing Crystron decks lately that don't even play Rion. They're level 3 tuner.
Well, you can still, if you're playing level dupe, you can still pretty easily go into this without Rion. Because you have wielder and you have level dupe, so like you summon like Smiger or something, level dupe your Satrice, special summon your wielder, and that's a Aquarion.
So,
but
no, it's a good card. Just maybe not as in fashion as it once was.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
All
right, moving on to number 4. What do you got?
I think this one is going to give a lot of people PTSD.
Okay.
But Buster Blader Dragon Destroyer.
Oh my god.
This card is absolutely insane. Like, we're getting to the point in the list where all of these cards are going to be disgusting. And so
I hated this card so much.
The reason why it's disgusting is because A, it flips all dragon types to defense, and you have to stay there. Like, that's crazy in and of itself. Second of all, it pierces, so you flip to defense, it still does a lot of damage. Third, it gains 1,000 attack for all of the dragon type monsters your opponent has on his field or his graveyard.
Right.
So that's pretty crazy too. And then to top it off, as if the other effects weren't broken enough, all dragon type monster effects are negated.
And they have to stay on defense on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's only your opponent's dragons too.
Right.
So like, you can summon this, and then your dragons are chilling. Your opponent just cries.
Well, he is a dragon destroyer.
Yeah, but the craziest part is that he's like really not that hard to summon.
No.
It's Buster Blader plus a dragon,
which they steal off of your board.
Yeah, so like in the like specific Buster Blader like archetype, they can pretty easily steal off your board with either the Buster. Well, if we had all the Buster Dragon, but in Duel Links with DNA Surgery.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot. I mean, this card is still arguably one of like the best fusions of all time for anything. Yeah. And the fact that we have it in Duel Links is...
Yeah, if you're not familiar and maybe you're new to the game, basically back in the day you could play DNA Surgery and turn all the monsters on the field to one type, and you turn them to dragons. So your opponent's monsters would be dragons, and then you could use your spell to summon this out by using their monster, and then any other monsters they had would have to stay in defense, and they couldn't activate their effects, and then you could pierce them and win the
fusions don't target. Fun fact.
Right.
So
yeah. This was just a gross card. I called a lot of Team Wars games. That's a competitive league over on Twitch. And I had to sit and watch this deck repeatedly just be degenerate over and over and over in those games.
It's an insane card.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on then now to number 3. Getting near the top now.
Number 3, I'm going to put Kakitis.
Kakitis.
And there's a couple reasons. I mean, a lot of people will probably put this at number 1. They're like, it's limited to 1, so why would it not be higher? And partially it's because of its rarity. I mean, it was unfortunate to only be printed as a rare, so it can't. It's not. We couldn't. It's subject to more nerfing than other cards, but This card can attack while in defense, as well as can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects.
That's pretty
So
nice.
it's really, really nice in Duel Links because we don't really have non-targeting banishing besides like Spellbook of Fate. So this card, if you were to summon it, you can really pace the duel to however you want, and that's why they actually limited it to 1 because it affected the pace of the game too much.
Oh,
But
remember
still,
when you
like,
could play 3 of them? It was sickening.
yeah, the whole Neos invoked with 3 flip-flop frogs. I mean, it was not a good time. So
No.
thankfully, this went to 1, but over time, I mean, it's still so good. As soon as you play, if you can go first with the kakitis, you know that there's a very high likelihood that you are just going to be chilling, and you're not going to have to do anything until you want to do it, which is very powerful assurance in a game like Duel Links, because we just don't have anything to really push through it, except if you summon something super, super big over it, and it can swing over it comfortably.
But yeah,
We
even
don't.
still, I mean, they can get up to what, 5,900 defense if they wanted to.
Yeah, with 3
3
Alistairs.
Alistairs.
But with because this was commonly played in Element Sabers, the Palace would boost it even higher than that. So, and plus you can, like, there's no way to disrupt its attack right now that we have in the game. So if you're swinging with Kakitis, you're safe. Besides Mirror Wall, but besides that, there's no other way to destroy it, like, off of its attack. So if you summon or if you swing in with Concentrating Current, like, the vast majority of the time, like 99% of the time, you have lethal.
Right.
Which is, or if they're monsters in attack, which is just disgusting.
Which makes me wonder what could possibly beat this beast on the list, Herf.
I don't know. I have two. Okay, the number 2 spot.
Yep.
I think most people are going to disagree with me. I think this is probably going to be the most controversial pick of the 10.
Uh-oh,
And
here we go.
it's Shien.
6 Samurai Shien, if you're not familiar.
6 Samurai Shien. And this card is broken. Especially for Duel Links. And the reason why is that you get this guy on the board. He's only 2,500 attack, whatever. But he is able to protect himself by destroying other cards on the field, or other 6 samurais on your side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, once per turn, when either player activates a spell or trap effect, he can negate it. Which doesn't really sound like that good. But if you think about it, if you're going second into this deck, you have 5 cards in your hand. You know that at least, like, one of them is going to be negated by Shien. So you can try to bait it out all you want, but the point of the matter is that Shien, if used by a good player, is not really going anywhere. Unless you get a chance to beat over it, but then, like, your spells and traps, a lot of times, are just ineffectual. So this card just completely dominates the board state, especially when going first.
And then if you saw the Arrow Mage video I did where we were playing against a double Shien out on the board, we ended up in an 8-link chain trying to play around Shien because we had to activate 3 cards just to get 1 to go through because he negated 2 of them. So yeah, it was you end up spending so many resources just to play through this card.
Just to play through 1.
Right.
And that doesn't even include all of the other cards that they have on the board. Like, if they had Shien plus Dual Wield, you're dead. If they have Shien plus Anishi, you're dead. Like, Shien by itself asserts so much dominance into the board state that if they have anything else with it, a lot of times it's just an auto-win board for them, which is...
There was an interaction with Fuma, too, right? From the grave?
Yeah, so if you were going to destroy just Shien, Fuma can protect.
Which you use Fuma to summon this.
Yeah, and Fuma's your only like level 1 tuner. But even the level 2 tuners can protect it as well. So if you go like normal summon Fuma, special summon Kizan, go into this, and then let's say you had a dojo or something. I mean, I don't want to make it too much of like an obvious god hand, but stuff like that. Or if you ended on like Shien plus Fuma on board, and you tried to destroy the Shien, they would just destroy the Fuma, special summon Anishi from the deck, bounce to your hand, and like this card is just so nice in its archetype that it's like you cannot. I don't see how you could put it below the top 5. And I think when I first was making the list, I was strongly thinking about putting this at 1, but we'll see what I actually put at 1.
Because this card definitely made this deck a tier 0 deck for a very long time.
This card changed Duel Links a lot, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, instantly when it came out, we were talking about in another video how a deck, if they're going to be truly tier 0, I think should just come out and be tier 0 right away. It doesn't have to work up to it, but that's a debate for another video. But when this deck came out, it was tier 0 immediately.
Yeah, it's too much for Duel Links in a lot of ways. Yeah. But it's neither here nor there now.
All right, yeah, it's dead. Well, people still play it. We still see it in tournaments now and again, and making the top 32. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right then, number 1, Herf. What is the number 1?
Do we want to do some honorable mentions or what?
Sure. What's your honorable mention?
I'm probably Samurai Destroyer. Honestly, that's probably the one card that would maybe be able to crack into this if another person's making it. Just because it's a generic level 7. When it swings, it negates all other cards on the field. So it's really good. And if it's destroyed by your opponent's card effect, it can resummon itself, which is also really good. So the combination of all of those things makes it a very solid card. I just ultimately felt like, its attack is a little low, stuff like that. It doesn't really come up to all of the other cards in the list, but ultimately very, very strong.
I'm going to kick it old school here and say the original synchro monster that was overpowered. Everybody forgets this poor man, but Armades. That guy right there. He was like the first synchro monster to come out. Armades, Keeper of Boundaries. He'd come out, and that was like one of the first synchros. It was like, oh my god, this is what we can do. Because when it attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. And that was like one of the first cards that could do that reliably when it first came out. I mean, so to me, that was a very devastating card for its time.
For sure. Because I was in the wallet control era where it's like you would play like 3 junk synchron and then you do the what grows in the graveyard. So you have a on-demand Armades whenever you wanted, and that was just a lot of pressure back in that state of the game.
Well, yeah, especially since, I mean, we still rely on back row now, but I mean, really relied on it back then. There wasn't as many monster effects, so you're basically locking someone out of their back row, which was huge.
I would say that's a pretty dang good honorable mention, Circus. I have to give that to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to end on a high note then. I'm just going to peace out here. You can finish off the list.
All right. So my number 1 then is going to be, nobody would have guessed this, but Invoked Purgatrio.
Dun, 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 dun.
And we've said that probably every card on the list is broken. But this card is a card that continues to shape even the meta in the TCG. It's so good. And in Duel Links, it's even better in my opinion because it has everything you could want from like an offensive boss monster.
Yep.
Like it has essentially like the big 3, which is can attack everything, it pierces, and it gains attack by itself. So looking from like a purely like objective like attacking boss monster, those are all 3 things that you would want to have. And this card has all of those things, as well as can be boosted by your Alistair the Invoker that you will have in your hand because you'll add it back off of Invocation. And if anything happens to this, you can just summon another one the next turn.
And this is a card I call an oh shit card. Because when you see your opponent going into it, you're like, ah, shit. You know what I mean? Every time.
It's just not fair. And any card that's any deck has been able to like spam Purgatrio like reliably and like been dominant has been nerfed.
Right.
Every single one. So it's like they can't hit this because it's a main box ultra rare. But any deck that starts to use it a lot, Konami's like, okay, time to ban it. Time to ban that deck. Whatever they're doing to make this consistent, make it not like. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't allow any deck that uses this card to be viable. So instead of hitting the card, they just nerf all of these decks, like Element Saber, stuff like that.
this thing can kill you twice over because it can easily do what, like 9,000 damage in a turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, let's just say you have 3 monsters, it'll be like against 200 attack per card on the field. So it'll be at 2,900
Yeah.
with your Alistair in the hand.
Yeah.
So then that would be 3,900 attacking into the first one. So that's a lot of damage.
Yes, and then it's going to reduce a little bit, but I mean the point is it can put out a lot of damage that it's hard. It can kill you almost kill you twice over, so it's hard to defend against.
Yeah, I mean that's with one Alistair in hand too. I mean there are other effects like when Palace was in the game. If you have another Alistair, maybe their monsters are in defense. Like Shiranui has 0 defense, so if you Canadia them, I mean you're piercing for 3,900 damage.
Right.
In a 4K life point game.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know how they let this in the game.
But,
like I think that the devs just hit the fuck it button and this came. Like
I don't know. Yeah, it's a fun card to go into when you're the one playing it. When you're not the one playing it, it's not as fun. But it gets hit by a floodgate, and it can get hit by a Canadia. It can get hit by a Wall of D or something. So it's not completely overpowered.
I mean, they just make another one next turn.
Right.
And you just had to expend your out to it. So and you can easily make it twice in 1 turn. So
that's true too. Yeah. It's good. I know it's good. I was just trying to give people a ray of hope here, but
the amount of offensive pressure that you can exert with this card is oftentimes much more than the amount of defensive pressure you can, or the defensive power that you can exert to equalize. Just a lot of times you can't do it unless you have 3 floodgates face down. I mean, that's possible, but then you have to hope they don't have any kind of backer removal.
This card has made every deck that it's touched really good, except Invoked Roids. So
this card is the main reason Invoked Roids has even been in the discussion for any reason for any period of time. Don't tell me. But
oh my god,
it's disgusting.
Yeah,
basic, like absolutely. Looking at this card,
just making you angry. Huh?
Yeah, it's just I mean, the only card that they can release to go above this in the archetype is like Mechaba, or like like the only fusions that beat it are the other invoked fusions. So
they're just way better.
Yeah, I mean, too good.
All right, we'll leave it there. You guys can tell us which ones we missed, or more specifically, which ones Herf missed in the comments below. We love to read the list. And maybe we can talk about them next time. We'll do a top 10 of things we missed in all of our videos. How about that? All right.
I mean, I missed Amazons in the top 10 uninteractive decks. So
yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. Make sure you get in our Discord because that's where we host all of our tournaments. They're always free to play, and we got a cool new player channel where you can go in and get help if you need it. So we're leaving. I'm Circus. That's Herf.
See ya.
Bye.